Good morning, everyone. For those that may not know me already, my name is Dalton Hartley. I've been a member of COC for a few years now, and today I've been asked to speak with you all about grace. When I was first asked if I would be able to put something together to say to the congregation today, I had a few reservations right from the start. First of all, I have an aversion to public speaking, so the fact that this is recorded is both for your benefit as well as my own. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, I was hesitant because although I consider myself a Christian, my faith journey is relatively new, and I wondered whether I had any right to speak to the congregation with any measure of authority on matters relating to God. But I still felt a calling to talk on this topic, which is odd for one very particular reason. I didn't fully exactly know what grace is. At least not as we Christians learn about it, God's divine grace. And yet I knew I was a recipient of it. And not just because I've heard about it being so in various sermons over the years, but because of my own personal experience within this church. But let's take a few steps back from that for a moment. Much like Judy last week, I was given a few scriptures to look over and see if they got some of the neurons in my brain firing. And of course they did. But I'm not the kind of person, I am the kind of person where if I don't know everything, or at least think I do, I'm not one to lecture about it. And being that I'm still so unfamiliar with Scripture and interpreting it, I'm largely going to avoid ever speaking on it in any context except for how it affected my own personal, mental, and spiritual understanding. And even after reading those scriptures, and a few others, I still found myself looking for a more concrete understanding of what divine grace really is. So, being the resourceful, or I guess lazy and impatient person that I am, I turned to Wikipedia, of all things. Without delving into it too deeply, and you'll have to forgive me for channeling my inner Pastor Lauren here, it's here that I learned that the New Testament translation for the word grace is from the Greek word charis. And on that page, as I was reading through, one word really stuck out to me: charismata, or spiritual gifts, which the New Bible Dictionary defines as grace coming to visible effect in word or deed. Boom. It clicked for me, or at least mostly. Through that one definition, I came to understand what keeps me coming back to this church and to the people. I've been the recipient of unending grace at the hands of this congregation, and I have seen the visible effect that the words and deeds that we carry out have. I am very much a tangible person. I need to see something, touch it, experience it, to really believe in it. And that's why my faith journey has been, I guess, the best word would be strained. But as I read the word charismata, and its definition, wow. Just wow. I couldn't think of another word. It's these little aha moments that for me grow my personal faith. Something as simple as learning a new word, and its definition compounds so much of what I've already taken from sermons and growing my relationship with God. Now, as I said before, I am not one to lecture on something I know little about. So rather than lecture, I will simply relate my personal experience with one piece of Scripture and how learning one new word changed how I look at Scripture, how I will look at Scripture moving forward. It's from 2 Corinthians 12, verses 8 and 9. 3 times I appealed to the Lord about this, that it would leave me. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for power is made perfect in weakness. So I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me." When I look back at my past, the things I've done, and I come to read this now, I have to thank God for all the things that he's given to me, but especially the trials and difficulties that I've been put through, because they've genuinely led me to discover what grace really is. I didn't know it at the time, and if I'm honest, I would put the blame on God most of the time. But as my faith and understanding grows, I can look back at what Jesus said: "My grace is sufficient for you, for power is made perfect in weakness. God's power shines through my weaknesses, encourages me to grow from them, and as a result of that, I'm able to try and share some of that divine grace with the people around me.